mean special. I mean special. Very special to me, very special to us. It's been a very important part of this church, very important part of my life. She's my wife. Amen. And she's gonna come and share her testimony for a couple minutes. So sit back in your seat, enjoy. I'm sure she'll touch us all.
All I have to say is I still look at him like I did when I was 11 years old. So I grew up going to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesdays. I went to Broad Fording Christian Academy, so I went to private school, Christian school, 5 days a week. And I grew up with a family. Both of my parents, loved Christ, very involved in the church. My grandparents, all of my family members. And I remember listening to people tell their testimony. And I sat here, when I was asked last week to do it, I remember when I was little, and I'm like, so I don't have this horrific story to tell. I wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't do drugs. Like, what do I have to say to people at the age of 32 years old? And hopefully something I say today will, resonate with you somehow. So again, I grew up at Broad Fording, played sports, had good academics. My senior year approached, and I decided very last minute that I was going to apply to Shippensburg University. It was April. I'm graduating in May, and I wanted to decide to do something with my life. So I went and loved it. It was culture shock for me. It wasn't a Christian school. All these people, very different backgrounds from me. And I met this guy. And being a teenage girl, you just want love. You just want to feel loved. We spent a lot of time together, skipped a lot of classes together. And in the summer of 2008, I got pregnant with my amazing almost 13-year-old son. Talk about, obviously not a shock. I know how it happens. I've had 4 kids. But you might look at me and say, well, great. You went to a Christian school. You have a great family. Like, wow, like, what a support system. No. I had teachers that invested in me through high school not speak to me, not look at me. Still to this day, some of them do not even talk to me. And it was a shock. But I went on to finish my college education. We had family support, which was awesome. Watched all the kids. I graduated, which was pretty awesome. I'm very proud of that. And work to this day working with kids. I graduated college, went to work at a daycare, went to work as a therapeutic support staff, and ended up working in foster care. Wow, what a whole new emotional world for me. You talk about hands-on working with real lives. Like, you hear about stories about how kids are abused and all this stuff on the news. Well, I was holding hands with those kids. I worked with kids that were dealing with truancy, just weren't attending school, to a little girl who was sexually molested by her dad. And it's just amazing walking through these journeys with the family. One week, to back up a little bit, my now ex-husband, when we got married, I believed he was a Christian. He had a relationship with Christ. Going through our journey and raising our children, it went completely the opposite way. Still to this day, does not believe. It's very difficult co-parenting that way. we would attempt to attend church. We would literally get in the car, shut the door, and he would rip apart the sermon. And just everything I grew up believing. I stopped being a part of a worship team. I stopped pretty much attending church completely, which was very different for me. And I could tell emotionally, mental health-wise, that I was struggling. One Sunday, I decided that the kids and I were going, that was it. Packed up the kids in the car, met my parents at the new church, and when they say you get hit by God with a 2x4, which I think Mr. Evans said it was better to have a 3x4 because you can hold on to it tighter, but he hit me, and he hit me hard. And he said, "This is enough. Your faith envelops everything around you. Your relationships, your work, your parenting, your marriage, everything." And I looked, and it, to make 13, I guess 12, 11 years story short, my ex-husband decided that it was time to end. I can't necessarily say that I disagreed with him because I was emotionally broken. It was hard. The way that I was spoken to, the way that I was treated. I never thought that someone that I fell in love with could speak to me that way. Yep, there's the tears. There's a verse in the Bible that's from 2 Corinthians 9, verse 6. "But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall also reap sparingly, and he that soweth bountifully shall reap bountifully." As my divorce was finalized, I started talking to a guy that I had probably talked to every year since at least 2008. And what's funny is I've known his family for years. His dad was actually the one that led me to the Lord in junior church when I was 7 years old. I can still recite the prayer to this day. Sorry, my notes are gone. And when I first started dating, he knew I had children. And the one day he first met, the first day he met Avery, I looked at him and I said, "I'm sorry, dude, but he's a mama's boy. He's not gonna like you." I literally get him out of the car, sit him down, ran straight to Josh. As if he could feel the love that he hadn't felt in his little life. Josh and I dated for a little while, and I mean a little while. And he proposed in December, got married last year in October. On September 19th, I decided last minute to go to Uprise, a Christian concert series. Thank you. A Christian concert. Very super last minute. I've gone to it several times. Loved it. There's this band called Kane. One of my favorite songs. I listened to it over and over and over again. And that song still plays in my head. A week later, on September 26th, early in the morning, there's doorbells ringing. and ringing and ringing and ringing. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be a fire. Like, what could it be? My parents are standing at the door. And they're like, Brett's been trying to call you. Something's wrong with Avery. We hurry up and get in the car and drive to the hospital. And that band's song, I played it over and over again. It says, did he move mountains? Did he deliver me? Yes, he did. And yes, he can. And I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know what was going on. I'm dialing my ex-husband's phone number, trying to get a hold of him. Nothing. I can literally picture every single moment still to this day. I mean, it's only been 6 months. But we get to the hospital. And we get in a room. And the doctor and the nurse sit down and said, we did everything we could. There isn't. Let me tell you what, if I wouldn't have been back in church, I don't know how I would be standing here today. Right. I don't know how I would be back to work full time. I don't know how I would get out of bed every day. I can tell you how, and that's my relationship with Christ. And there's no doubt in my mind that when I get there in heaven, that my baby's going to be waiting for me.
Amen. Yes, sir. Yes,
I just really want you guys to know that, oh, wow, God is good. I never thought at the age of 32 that I would be divorced, remarried, happily remarried, without my child. And no one should have to go through that. But God is good. And lean into that.